What does it really feel like to fly in a hot air balloon? I'm so excited. Today, I have the pilot that took me on one of my first hot air balloon rides. And we are going to talk today everything from inflation to landing. So, Tom, what is the biggest thrill for you when taking people on a flight?
The biggest thrill is noticing the look on their face when they realize they're no longer on the ground.
For those people who are new to Inspire Travels with Patti, I'm Patti Hunt, and I created this channel to inspire you to live life more fully. And for me, that is through travel. And that is not just about the destination. Yes, the places you see, but it's the experiences and the people you meet. And it's really about how you live. Let me introduce my guest. Tom Russo has been ballooning for over 4 decades, with his first free flight in Albuquerque in the famous World Balloon. Tom has flown commercially for passenger rides, corporate promotion, and racing at balloon events. He flies for Brookside Ballooning. Welcome, Tom, to Inspire Travels with Patti.
Thank you, Patty. It's great to see you again.
Yes. So let's start with that because I had to look back, it was in 2021 that we first met. So it's been a long time since we first met, and you took me on one of my first balloon rides. But before we get into that, I want to hear the story. What got you interested in hot air balloons?
Well, I've told this story many times and it always seems to come out the same, so I'm going to stay with it. Um, I was born and raised on Staten Island, New York, which is not exactly the balloon capital of the world. I had a relative of mine, a cousin, who had moved to Albuquerque and gotten a position with World Balloon Corporation. One sunny July, he called me up and said, "Hey, I'm coming up to New Jersey. In particular, I'm coming to Brooklyn and I need your help." I said, "Okay." And I went out and spent 3 hours doing everything a normal crew person would do around a hot air balloon in Marine Park, Brooklyn, hardly balloon capital of the world. And we tethered a balloon for about 3.5 hours and I was hooked.
That's what did it for you. So then when did you decide to become a pilot? How did you transition into that?
The event in Brooklyn was just a tether. It was up and down on the ropes, nothing more than that. But I still got in the basket and got a little taste of what it felt like. I saw the folks and the people reaction to the balloon, and it brought a smile to everybody from a little kid to an octogenarian. I then went my first opportunity went out to Albuquerque, so I had no excuse not to free fly. I had to get off. I had to get off the ropes. So I went out in December, and in New Mexico, December, it's 30 degrees every day difference, whether it's 70 to 100 or 30 to 60. We went out in December, Sunday morning in December, and I jumped in the World Balloon and took off over the West Mesa and never looked back.
Okay, so when you say free flying, so let me be clear. In New York, you were tethered. So to a rope, I like to be.
Yeah, there were basically three types of position the aircraft can be in. There's a static display, which is inflated upright, basket on the ground, and what it is a billboard. Okay, it's a 80-story billboard. Then there is a tether, which is where you actually leave the ground. The basket will go off the ground, but it's still tied down by one or more ropes to the ground. So you can go 150 feet, but you're not going any higher. You're going to come back down again. And then a free flight is no encumbrances, obviously, like the title describes, not a single thing holding you to the ground.
What I want to describe today is the whole idea of the flight. My first flight was with you, and I want to share that and share that experience to the best that I can and get the information from you because there's a lot of information that I learned while being at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. And then the technical parts of it, which maybe we do a part two on that because there is the whole setup. So let's do a little bit of that. Let's talk briefly. I'm backing up. Let's talk briefly about the setup of the balloon. First of all, the balloon weighs how many pounds? Let's start with that.
There are two main components to the balloon. It's the basket or the carriage or the envelope, which is the upper part, the colorful part, the logo part, whatever you want to call it. Each has its own weight, and total together, the system that you were in is about 575 pounds
Okay.
with
So,
with the
okay.
weight of propane.
You have tanks of propane inside the basket. Okay, just to give people an idea. So you start out, the basket gets laid down to set it up. Take us a little bit through that.
Let me back up a second and tell you that all hot air balloon pilots, myself included, are licensed, certified by the Federal Aviation Administration, same as airline pilots, civilian aviation pilots, helicopter pilots. We all have to go through training and certification. All pilots go through a pre-flight check. But unlike helicopter pilots and single wing and fixed wing and multiple wing pilots or multi-engine pilots, balloon pilots have to assemble their aircraft.
Right.
Ours is in pieces. The basket is not connected to the envelope. The envelope is not in pre-flight form. So what we do, and what you're referring to, is we do what's called a cold inflation. The basket is on its side. The envelope, the top part, is attached to the basket and pulled out in a long ribbon. We then use a gasoline-powered cold air fan to expand the use of the word canopy, or to expand the envelope to allow the hot air or the burner flame, which is the engine, to ignite. And the simple principle, going back to perhaps Sir Isaac Newton, is hot air rises. And that's all we do with a hot air balloon. So once the balloon is on its side and there's sufficient cavity space, you get in and light the burner, and the balloon will stand upright, which is obviously completely vertical.
Okay.
That's the inflation part you're talking about. It's a time for a pilot to check all of his equipment, double check on weather, brief passengers, make sure passengers don't have second thoughts, make sure it happens, and make sure that everything is, pre-flight in a hot air balloon, and then all aviation, but more so in a hot air balloon, is absolutely a must. So while I'm doing that, I'm checking the equipment, my crew, gas in the fan, weather conditions, how I feel personally, if I'm having any issue in the moment, because there's no co-pilot and there's no autopilot.
Okay, so let's go back to October 2021 because let me just be honest, I'm afraid of heights. So I just want to tell people that I am afraid of heights. Now, I could go up in an airplane. I was in a private airplane. I could look out the window. When I feel buckled in my seat and safe, I'm good. But when I'm climbing up the side of a mountain, not so much. So this was somewhere in between because while you're in a basket, you're not necessarily secure. There's no seatbelts. So I was nervous going up.
Let me give you what's been an ongoing debate in myself. I don't like ladders. I don't like looking down from a staircase. I don't like looking out windows in New York City. I go to the edge at Hudson Yards, and I am panic stricken. But I can sit on the side of a hot air balloon at 3,000 feet and not have a care in the world. Um, I can only attribute it to not having an attachment to the actual ground. You can look down a building, you can look downstairs, you can look down a ladder, you can look across the way at something else attached. Once you're above 30 feet off the ground, there's no perspective. There's nothing linking you to the ground. It's just you and the ground beneath you. I can fully understand somebody telling me exactly what you said. I share it with most passenger flights because I too feel um, I don't like heights. I would prefer not to climb a ladder for any reason, or a step stool for that matter. But in a
Okay.
balloon, it's a different perspective, and I don't know how to explain it otherwise.
And that's the thing. As much as we're going to try to go through the process of getting in the balloon and sharing this whole experience, it's also something you can't compare to. It's like nothing I've ever seen. And again, I've flown in private airplanes. I actually had the opportunity to fly down the Hudson River in New York before they
Very
stopped that.
nice. Very
It
nice.
was just amazing, but you can't really describe it. We're going to do the best we can here with it.
It is a very visual sense, and I will tell you that when I think about it, which is probably 75% of the time, I will have passengers, first time passengers, close their eyes and then tell me or raise their hand when they feel we're off the ground. 95% of the people will raise their hand and we will be 20 to 30 feet off the ground and they go because they cannot believe they've been off the ground that long or that high.
So let's talk about that because you can't feel it. So I don't,
If,
from the
if your pilot's
time,
good, you can't feel it.
oh, is that what it is? Good
You
to
can
know.
go up like an elevator if you really want to, but that's not always welcome.
Okay, okay. So for me, my
Mhm.
experience, I kept my eyes open the whole time because I need control. So it was my sense of controlling the
Well,
situation.
let me let me
So
let me
as
tip you off to something you never thought about, or I'm going to put it in different perspective. You chose to take this flight at an event with at least 500 other balloons in the air at the same time. Now that is a little less control than you might have thought you had,
listen,
myself included.
well, let's get real. I had no control. You're manning the balloon. There was no control. It was just my false sense of it. But I did watch the whole time.
Mhm.
And when we were up off the ground, probably not that far, because when you lift off the ground, you actually then move forward, if I remember
You
correctly.
balloons ride with the wind. We are at the mercy of the wind. So if there's any breeze whatsoever, we will have forward momentum.
So, and we're going to talk about that. So we start lifting off. And for me, I just had to remind myself to be in the moment of that, not think about what could go wrong, how high are we, what else is around, just
Good,
be
good
in
thinking.
that
Very
moment.
sound thinking.
It was the same as when I was, and I don't know how, I went ziplining in Panama over the Panama Canal. Being afraid
Beautiful.
of heights, I don't know how I did it. So it was that kind of thing. And we're kind of staying with this because I hear a lot of people say I could never do that. I'm afraid of heights. And so that's why I'm sharing this. But the feeling once you get up off the ground, it's just, again, there's a thrill. There's this amazing feeling that you just can't describe.
I've yet to have it diminish in any time I fly. You mentioned something very important though, and as a pilot, I'm already thinking about the landing from the minute I take off, and I have to remind myself constantly, and it's great advice to just first of all, I'm not going to land immediately, so let's enjoy the flight, look out, talk to the folks, have some,
Mhm.
get some visual memories that'll stay with me forever. But not be so concerned with the end. But of course, as a pilot, I'm always worried about the end. And it's a one-way trip, Patty. Remember, very rarely, and only in Albuquerque is it even remotely possible to land where you took off from.
Right.
So always everywhere else, and even most Fiesta flights and most Albuquerque flights are one-way flights. So you don't know exactly where we're going to land.
Right. And you were helpful with that because there was nothing I was going to do for the landing part of it. That's all on you. And that you were talking through it, like pointing things out and looking at certain things, including the power lines that needed
Mhm.
to be avoided.
Mhm.
That was a little scary.
So a passenger in a hot air balloon serves one basic function, and that's ballast. Okay. Without your weight, the balloon would just take off and keep going up until the fuel was out. You also serve extra eyes and extra observatory powers, which is important to a balloon pilot. We don't have radar. We don't have any kind of mechanical devices that can help us see better. It's kind of awkward and clunky to take out binoculars. So what you're referring to is when I briefed you to help me look for power lines, other aerial type obstructions, other aircraft, and livestock on the ground, if you remember.
Right, right, right. So, okay, so we're up in the air.
So now you're part of the crew or you're part of the
Right.
flight crew, not
Yeah.
just a passenger.
And again, there's that time of enjoying. Let's talk a little bit about, we'll go back and talk about Albuquerque and why it is such a special place. But let's talk a little bit about how long a flight can take. And I know it just varies based on weather and wind and all that other stuff.
So the simple question doesn't get you a simple answer, unfortunately. We have a fixed amount of fuel when we take off. We have a lift quotient, how much hotter the balloon has to be than the outside air to get lift. And then we also have forward momentum that you mentioned with the wind speed. Now, all the years I've developed a couple of metrics of measurement. So let's talk about treadmill. You're on a treadmill and you're walking a good clip. You're at 3.5 to 4 miles an hour, maybe 4.5. You've got long legs. That's a nice, easy flight, nice, easy walk, right? Nice, easy flight on a balloon. If we're up 7, 8, 9, you're now huffing and puffing and running quickly, and the balloon is now going quickly across the landscape. So, how long a flight typically lasts, even without trying to set any records, is about 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And again, one way. So, normally I know the exact terrain and the area that we're going to fly in and what prohibitions there might be to going longer distances. Plus, remember, one way trip, there's a crew in a vehicle
Right.
that's going to recover us following us. It's very easy to lose your crew.
Yes, I think we did at one point.
So I would say time wise is the best measurement. And anywhere from hour is probably around average, hour to hour and 15. A slow morning, a nice cool morning, you can go longer easily.
Okay.
Again, you're not going to go, if you're going fast, you're not going to go long.
And what was interesting is I would have not been able to guess how long we had been in the air. I would not have said it was anywhere near an hour because it was just, again, being in the moment and enjoying the ride. Now, Albuquerque is very unique. First of all, for people who aren't familiar, the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta takes place every October. It's 9 days long. People with RVs can go and camp out, and we'll put in the show notes so you can look at all that information. But Albuquerque is unique because of what they call the box, right? Am I saying that right?
Well, the box is the resulting shape, rectangular, of what's not a one way flight, but a return flight to basically the same location. Wind, regardless of what we think we can see, go in different directions at different altitudes, not thousands of feet, tens of feet. So the wind could be going in, 1 degree direction at 100 feet above the ground. At 200 feet above the ground, could be going 20 degrees different. In Albuquerque, because of the geology, and that being that the Sandia Mountains are on the eastern side of the city. So what Albuquerque ends up having, and what they call drainage from the northern part of New Mexico, the winds go basically north and south many much of the time, and at different altitudes as the air heats or cools in opposite directions. So the box is take off, fly south, go high, go north, try to land back where you took off from. Thus the rectangular box.
Okay.
Very unique phenomenon. Happens there more regularly, why it's more famous. Does happen periodically at other places, but you can't count on it.
For us, we took off. We flew for, you're saying, a long time, 45 minutes an hour. And
Well,
then we're in the basket. Now, the basket holds about four people. I'm going to say there were three of us. So Dan and I, and you in the basket and the propane tank. So there's not a lot of room in the basket. But you then share the fact that it's going to be a moderate landing.
well, So we take off at one wind speed, and I know what the speed is on the ground when we take off, obviously, right? But what I don't know is what the speed's going to be at the time we land, 45, 50 minutes later, or in the location that we're going to land in. I'm always looking for signs, moving leaves, little bits of smoke, anything that can give me an indication what the wind speed might be on the ground. I don't know if you remember, well, one morning we attempted to take off, and I noticed your hair was blowing on the ground, and we did not take off that morning. When
Oh,
I
it was
saw
my
your when I saw your hair flowing, and we hadn't left the ground, and your hair was almost perpendicular to the ground, or parallel, excuse me, I knew it was too windy. So there are
oh,
little tricks you learn as a pilot,
right.
situational observation, right? Situational awareness. Um, that morning that we were flying after the elapsed time of the flight, I happened to notice a little bit of ground wind picking up. Leaves were fluttering as we were passing over them, but I knew it was within tolerance. Tolerance meaning a safe landing. And I knew I could find a spot, and did have a spot in mind. We flew over. Remember, continually low over on an approach. I want to be correct on an approach to landing over some houses and very
Hmm.
very close to a particular cottonwood tree. And we landed on the other side of a major county road where I knew the crew would have easy access to get us.
But we landed out in a field, and you were preparing me for moderate landing, which was a little,
You
it was
brief
a
you
little
brief
scary.
you brief your crew when you take off, and you describe what you want to be done at landing. You want to make sure that you bend your knees like you're jumping off a second step on your stairs. You want to hold on to any part of the basket that's rigid, and hold on with your hands so you can balance. And most importantly, as ballast, stay in the basket. Because if you should fall out or jump out too quickly, away we will go. And that's not a thing I'm planning on doing.
No,
So that
no,
was your briefing. But I knew that we were going to not necessarily slide in my normal landings, but we might hit and bounce a little bit.
and we bounced, and then I think the basket went over, right?
Well, it's a sail at that point, right?
Well,
We friction with the basket on the ground, and yet we have a balloon that's looking to continue. The wind hasn't stopped, and I have 88 to 90 feet of material acting like a spinnaker trying to catch that wind still. So we tipped over a little bit, but that's fine. Most passengers of all ages, by the way, think that's the most fun. I try to
yes,
smile through my angst.
yes.
Yeah, that's not fun.
And the crew was not there. They hadn't gotten to us yet.
We
So,
were we were quick. We,
yeah,
we beat them to the location.
yes.
But I have to
Okay,
plan on that. So that's why you were so well briefed. And that's why you performed so well, Patty. You were great.
thanks. I was a little nervous. I was
People
definitely nervous,
do
but
amazing things when they're a little nervous. I too am always a little nervous. I never take a balloon flight for granted.
it's still, it was one of the most amazing experiences. I've now done 2 flights, just the most amazing experience, and I highly recommend everybody do it. And again, you can't really describe it. So let's talk a little bit because I know Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is on so many people's bucket list. It's on, the top 10, 20 of a lot of people's bucket list to go to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. I recommend it. This episode will come out in February. It is the time to plan, even though it's not till October.
Applications for pilots come out in the next 60 days.
Right. And the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta has already opened up, if I'm not mistaken, for reservations for the RV sites. I am going to tell people there are still ways to get in. You could be part of a group to get in. You could keep calling and get on a wait list for cancellations. There are other ways. But for
I
the
received 2 text messages last week from crew who have already secured their RV sites for this
right.
year.
Right. And it went out in January, I think is what it is. And there's some 500 sites there. There's different types of sites, different types of accommodations. I never stayed in one of the RV sites. We had the RV and we stayed at a friend's house that was a couple miles away. So there's a lot of details, and I will continue to bring out the details for people wanting to go to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. But let's talk a little bit about all
Can I
these
just point
small.
something out that I think you might be interested in?
Go for it.
The staff And the board of directors of Fiesta for the 9 days live in RVs on site. It is by far the best way to attend the festival, to immerse yourself in the festival. And if those insiders know that's the way to go to avoid traffic and the early morning in the dark trying to find things, that's a lesson for everybody.
And I would agree with you. I had the opportunity to be off-site with the RV, and we actually took our electric bikes back and forth.
I
But
recall.
you are going out there 4:30 in the morning. The sunset, absolutely amazing, so it made it worthwhile. There are ways, so people who have an RV want to rent an RV and experience it right there. You are literally right there. There are balloons sometimes landing where you're parked.
Their
Yeah.
landing areas for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. So it is absolutely the place to be.
And there's an RV at the north and south end side of the field. So invariably, you're going to fly either over at least once, either one of
Right.
those during the
Yeah.
course of a flight. So,
Right. And they had glamping when I was there. I think they probably
mhm.
upped that. So if you want to be in a glamping tent, they have that. They have a lot of options, plus the hotels in the area. But like you said, trying to get there every morning can be difficult at best.
Yeah, no, and like I said, the insiders know what to do.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
all in RVs.
Right. But I want to give people options because
Mhm.
not everybody has the opportunity. Now, the other thing is the smaller events across the country. I know in June during Father's Day, so anybody in the Pennsylvania area over Father's Day weekend, there is an event. It's called Chester County
Balloon Festival, I
Balloon.
think so. I think festival they're using, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll be there. I'm gonna be there for the
Mhm.
weekend. I think that's an amazing place to spend Father's Day weekend. I'm gonna tell my kids and grandkids to come. There's a lot to do there, and the reason I'm saying this is because there are smaller balloon events across the country.
The Balloon Federation of America, BFA.net, lists multiple states and dates of activities. There is, I don't know what it looks like today, but when you get in full swing, nice weather wise around the country, there will be hundreds. And they range from small 20 balloon events to 150, 200 balloon events.
And a lot of them have activities and food and all kinds of things yeah.
Well, you know, I take my 9-year old, and while he enjoys the balloons, he knows exactly where to go when we're not ballooning at each event. Knows exactly where
Right.
the fun things are to go. So to keep everybody happy, they've added music, live music, certainly any kind of amusements they can put down, and they make as much of a day event as they can. Unlike Albuquerque, a lot of events are morning and evening. So
Yeah.
you can do two balloon flights. So in a weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, excuse me, Saturday, Sunday morning and evening, that's 5 flights in 3 days.
Yeah, Albuquerque's different. So again, people who want to go, there's a lot to do and see the schedule. They could probably go online now and see the schedule, and I'll put that in the show notes as well. You are flying at the event in June, right? You're
Mhm.
already scheduled to fly there. So I plan on being there. Now, people could come in and watch the crew set up. That's part of it. So if you are setting up, it's okay for
Mhm.
people to come watch how the balloon is actually set up and inflated and watch it kind of go up in the air, which is really cool as well.
At Albuquerque, which is good for 100,000 people a day, you're there up and there's no um, spectator restraints. You can be up and close. Because sometimes I have to remind people they need to move back just a little bit, but you can get up and close and see exactly what's going on at most events.
Now, if people aren't going to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta or a local festival, balloon festival, they can get a private flight, which you work with um, Brookside
At Brookside
Ballooning.
Ballooning, we do flights for hire, up to 4 people. We will do private flights for two, which most of the time, just like it sounds, includes either a romantic getaway or an actual uh, proposal, birthday events. People look for reasons to have a balloon flight. Um, it's always fun because the people make it different for us. If I had to do it by myself, I probably wouldn't do it. The people we meet are fantastic. They might have different expectations. Like do we need oxygen? No, we're not going that
Good
high.
question. I'm sure people ask.
I like to take people up several thousand feet first, or a couple of thousand feet, and then you detach from the ground, and it looks like a miniature railroad thing. I mean, the little trees a little, buildings a little, roofs a little, and you kind of go, "Well, this is cool." But then the best part about ballooning and the way I've been able to describe it, you have a bird's eye view of where you are. You're like a bird. You're just flying at a couple hundred feet off the ground. You're going up and down. You're looking treetops that you'd never see from the ground, roads you'd never see that perspective. It's funny to see how many frisbees are on roofs of houses, or what a pool or neighborhood of pools look like when the blue multi shapes stick out at you in the morning, and you say, "Oh my God, look at all these pools!" It's the birds' view of where we live, and we're not birds, so we get to be birds for a little while.
Yeah, it's so cool. That's a great way to describe it. It's very cool.
It's also fun to go buy a bird in the balloon or have them fly by you and kind of give you the shoulder look like, what?
What are you
I,
doing?
I, I remember going past an owl, probably 150 feet off the ground in a big pine tree. And I swear he went, just followed me as I went by, and I just waved. We were probably 12 feet away. Never going to
That's
happen again in my life, nor would I ever expect it to.
probably not, but so cool. So how could people reach out if they're looking for that private balloon flight? How could people reach out to you?
I'll have to get you the contact information.
Okay, I will find the contact info.
We fly over Bucks County, New York, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful, semi-urban yet very rural. A lot of colonial buildings, a lot of flagstone buildings, a lot of open space. It's close enough that we can actually see metropolitan downtown Philadelphia to the right, and typically to the left, we can see the Freedom Tower in Manhattan. So it's situated kind of equidistant ish between the two metropolitan areas.
And what's that area called that you fly out of?
We fly out of a particular facility called Peddler's Village
Okay.
in Lahaska, Pennsylvania. It is a quaint, 100 stores and restaurants of various ilks. They do a lot to bring folks over, apple festivals, beach festivals, anything they come up with the weekend for. Folks are up for it. It's a beautiful area. A lot of artisan work, a lot of natural foods you can find. It's phenomenal. It ties together. It's really like a balloon festival every weekend, except we're the only balloons.
Right. So people, you could go not balloon for free, but people could go and actually fly. I just want to be clear. And that's
Oh,
Brookside
absolutely.
Ballooning. Go ahead.
Just taking off from Peddler's Village probably attracts dozens of folks a month, just saying, "Hey, we can do this," you know. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful addition, and the countryside is great.
And I've been to that area many times, and it is a beautiful area worth spending a day or days in that area. I know people stay in an Airbnb or a bed and
Oh,
breakfast. It is a
many of them,
beautiful
many
area.
right there. In fact, there's a couple of great Airbnb B&Bs right within
Right.
eyesight of where we take off from.
I just want to thank you. I know there's going to be questions. I'm going to have people reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, ask questions that I'll then pass to you, and we'll get questions answered that I can't answer. And that is all of those platforms. You could go to Inspire Travels with Patty. As I said, if people are listening on the podcast platform, they can go to YouTube and see video of us and some of what I'm talking about. We'll put video out there of it. And that again is Inspire Travels with Patty on all platforms. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on and giving us so much great information. It's been incredible. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in Thank you for all your support. And I want to leave you with one last thought. Travel is not just about where you go, it's about how you live. And I want to inspire you to live life to the fullest every day.